And we're live. We're live.
Whee!
What's up, Joe? You just had dinner?
Just had a stir fry, some chicken thighs. What else did we have in there? We had some peppers, we had some onions, we had some garlic, broccoli, uh, and some teriyaki sauce.
Teriyaki.
Turned out really good. I got a trick that I do. I
Oh, you
just
made it.
I made it, yeah. Take the thighs and pat them dry. When you take them out of the package, this is an important process. And then get a cast iron going on high heat. Now my wife and I save all of our bacon fat. We like bacon, and whenever we cook it, we'll take the grease and dump it back into a jar and put it in the fridge. So I'll put a little bit of bacon fat in the cast iron, get that real hot, and just as it's starting to smoke, now you know you're up to temperature. Put those dry thighs that you've got to dry. First, the like bold, like the non-nubby side, the smooth side, where that down first, and just let that sit, and then start chopping your vegetables into big chunks. I also have a wok. This is very important for if you want to do a stir fry properly. Get that wok ready to go. Chop up your veggies. Flip the chicken after, like check the other side. You want the chicken to caramelize on each side so you get that dark, crispy, yum layer. Flip that after some time. Meanwhile, you begin stir frying your vegetables I did it in bacon fat and olive oil. Added some adobo, garlic powder, black pepper. And then while the veggies are still chunky, while it's stir frying, I'll take the chicken off once the chicken's pretty much cooked through. Chop the chicken up into little pieces and put that in kind of at the end. Add the teriyaki sauce. Stir it a little bit more, and then you get that like nice caramelized chicken texture. The veggies are still crispy. Turned out really good.
Do you when you pat them dry, do you do that with like paper towel or something?
Yeah, paper towels. I do that. Generally, do that with all your meat. If you're cooking it on if you're missing out on lovely flavor if you don't caramelize the outside of your meat. Salmon, pat your salmon dry and then fry that. Fry it in bacon fat. That's okay. And that's how you get that crispy brown outer layer. If you have a big salmon like fillet and say you're cooking for two, cut it in half first and then brown every side of it. Like you can literally stand them up on their sides with like tongs on the cast iron, get the sides brown, then do the non-skin side first. Let that get brown and crispy, just like 2 minutes on that side. Then you flip it and let it cook on the skin side for more like 4 to 5 minutes, depending on how you like your salmon cooked. I like it so that inside is barely cooked, but warm, you know? And then kind of gradually reduce heat. After 3 minutes on the skin side, reduce the heat. And then after another couple minutes, turn the heat off and just let it sit on the cast iron covered for a little bit. It's not covered before then. That's so the moisture can escape and the fish won't steam. Rather, it'll stay crispy on the outside. And then, let it sit and just kind of chill for a bit. It'll finish cooking. And then it'll be just so tender and crispy on the outside and crunchy, but so soft and juicy on the inside. And that's the holy grail of meat cooking, really, I think. That's my book.
That sounds, I want it all.
Yeah.
For anything, your glasses kind of actually are distracting. The glare on it.
Are they?
Yeah, because I'm looking at you in the eye, but I'm looking at glare.
It's hard because I'm trying to see if it's. Is that better?
Move back a bit, like where you were. Yeah, that's better.
Like the darker I make my screen, it's harder to see you, but I think the less glare there is.
Yeah, there's far less glare. Is that okay for you?
Yeah, I can make this work.
So when you cook, do you and Kate have if you cook, she'll do the dishes sort of thing, or is it a team effort?
Yeah, usually I felt bad, I wanted to help her there, but we just cut it too close. I had to run in here, but yeah, usually I'll help her a little bit. But generally, if I cook, she'll do the dishes or vice versa. So it makes it a pretty good system.
In your new studio.
I am in the new studio. we're in condensed mode now. I'm against the wall, so behind me is a lot more space than
Is
normal.
it, is this, it's like a desktop, so you can't like turn around and show?
It's a laptop. I can show. It's a little messy though.
Oh, okay.
But we can see.
That's not messy at all. I love how
Well,
everybody says like, "Hey, sorry for the mess," and it's like not a mess.
well, it's just not like
Ready.
I wouldn't invite company over to show them the studio in its current state. I would have put maybe 15 minutes into a tidy to
Oh, I see.
throw all the clothes on the bed and then close the curtains behind it.
Well, then maybe another time.
Yeah, another time for sure. But yes, we are in the new temple has been erected, and I'm so thrilled about it. I really like working from home.
You do.
Yeah, I'm really enjoying it. As an introvert, it suits me. Um, and it helps me to then have social energy when I'm done with work because I haven't like spent all my energy like going to a place. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Now it's like I can feel a little bit stir crazy at the end of the day, and I'll be more likely to like engage in. Well, not now because we can't really like go anywhere, but I'm
Yeah.
more willing to like have some social time at the end of my workday because I just right here in my home. I don't have to talk to anyone.
Except your wife.
Sure,
Oh, I
but
mean, yeah, but your work day, yeah.
yeah, during my
So wait,
yeah,
is Kate at the house or at the apartment a lot while you're working?
she is, but she stays in the other room. So essentially, I just like live in this room all day. Doors closed, and I have like an acoustic panel on the other side, like a this big this big acoustic sheet that hangs, and it's got a vinyl layer in it as well that like isolates sound, doesn't let sound through, and then a door as well. And so she can barely hear what I'm doing in here, and
Hmm.
I can barely hear what she's doing in there. So the result is it's actually made the apartment bigger because now it's like I have a space that really only I'm in. Whereas before anything she would do or I would do in the other room, like we'd be fully aware of everything the other person was doing because you could just hear every sound all the time.
Hmm.
Um, it's also accentuated how much my sense of sound um, gives me a perception of like what kind of how big a space is for me or how usable a space is or how it affects the energy of a space for me. Where being in this room now where I can't really hear much except for some faint stuff from the street and some faint stuff. Kate can literally be singing and playing in there and I'll hear her a little bit, but it's nothing close to like what it was before I treated the door and added all that
Hmm.
isolation stuff. So it's been great. So even when I'm not working on audio stuff, I can really concentrate in here pretty well and just get lost and we won't distract each other anymore. While this was still being built, like you couldn't even be in this room. It was a disaster because it's not that big and we have so much stuff. Um, and so yeah, to do anything you had to move four things. It was not fun to be in here while it was under construction. So we were just both cramped on top of each other and both had like things we had to do, but we just distract each other or just feel each other's empathy, you know,
Hmm. Yeah.
and get lost in conversation
So
it
this
was
has actually helped with that.
very much so. Yeah.
Really? That's
It's,
awesome.
it's improving the marriage and I'm glad it is because I promised her that would be the case. And she was skeptical. She's like, I don't know if I like the idea of you being home all the time now. Like it's already hard enough now. Now
Did you
you're going to
say you said that it'll improve the marriage?
yeah,
That's great.
yeah.
I promise you, babe, it's gonna improve the
It's
marriage.
going to improve the marriage, babe.
That's how I get what I want. It's to improve the marriage.
Well, they're not mutually exclusive.
Yeah, of
Because
course.
part of what I want is to improve the marriage. But also, I want my studio at home. And I can't tell you emotionally, man, just like, I grew up with like hi-fi stereo equipment because my dad was a bit of an audiophile growing up and always had loud music. And I always was able to like, I was a basement kid, like I just like loved projects in the basement by myself with all this equipment and having this stuff here. Like I roll out of bed and now it's here. I feel like it's a home now. And I know that's probably sounds weird to people because, you know, if you were to see what's going on, what I'm looking at, I just had this pro audio equipment on top of dressers and, a subwoofer and.
Right. Cause like what we can see now is just like the stuff behind you.
Right.
But
Right.
I've seen pictures of what it actually looks
Well, it's
like.
something.
It's pretty cool.
It's like let's see. It's a bit dark in here, but can you see?
It's like a spaceship.
We've got like our gear up there, and then these studio monitors and stuff. It's still really dark. I know. I'm sorry.
No, it's cool.
But
you can get an idea.
That really, I really do have a sense, Jeff, now that it's like, oh wow, this feels like home now. Like it didn't feel like fully home until my studio stuff was set up here, and then I'm like, oh, my favorite things are all here now, like in one place. Like I got my guitar and my amp and my pedals now just totally set up. So this room, what's great now too is like I wouldn't play my guitar as much because I just didn't want to, like, my wife's home. It's like, I don't want to bother her. She's going to hear me wailing on guitar. I just don't feel as free to do that or to sing. And now we're both playing and singing so much more now because
wow.
we don't bother each other. And so
that's really great to hear. Cause I remember you, like talking about like when you had to close the studio and basically you had to bring the studio from the Lower East Side. You had to move it to your house, to your apartment. And I remember you being like, my poor wife, this is a lot, to like throw on her lap as well.
Yeah.
So that's actually good to hear because I didn't, that's the first time I'm actually hearing any of that stuff.
Yeah, that's been a really cool like side benefit of it all. For sure.
I wanted to ask you, you mentioned your dad was an audiophile, also a musician, bass player, right?
Yeah.
And I know he was in bands like Junction West or something, right?
That's right. Yeah, that's right. That was like the main band he was in.
Yeah, like it's so wild because it's I've always wanted to, like, I always forget to ask you this, but like, because I don't think of him as a musician. He's your dad and he's awesome, goofy, hilarious, weird, and just awesome to be around. But like, it seems like playing music, at least, is not something that's really a part of his life. And to be in a band like Junction West, like that was a really good band. So he must have been very proficient, right?
Yeah, he was very good. And at the time, like that was his income, like too. Like he was they were making good money. Like they were playing all the high school proms. Like this is when proms had bands play, like, so they played all those events and they played tons of parties. They played tons of clubs around town. Like people used to go out and like dance to bands in Buffalo, like as a regular mainstream form of entertainment. Whereas now it's more like a niche like group. My dad still goes out, not as much obviously because of COVID, but like, in his 60s, goes out dancing.
That's right. You tell me that he's gone dancing a lot. Yeah.
Yeah. Like before COVID, twice a week, he'd go out to clubs, find out where some of his favorite bands or acts are playing and just go out and dance. He found a group of people who liked doing that with him. That's how he met his fiance.
Yeah. So does he still play at all now?
He's got some instruments around the house and he'll jam every now and then, but just for fun, he's he doesn't play professionally or anything like that anymore.
I've never ever seen him play.
Yeah. Like I've seen him like pick up the instrument and like show me some things especially when I was learning.
Yeah.
Showing me some like Beatles bass lines and some Led Zeppelin lines and stuff like that.
Yeah.
That's
cool. Yeah, I love your dad. He's so cool. He's so much fun. But yeah, I always knew that he was a musician and a good one. But that was a life even before I met him, met you even.
Yeah. I mean, all I have are stories that he's told me or that my mom's told me.
Yeah. And his guitar.
And his guitar. Yep. Which I'm currently the steward of.
Yeah. Talk about that guitar actually.
So that guitar is a 1968 or 69 ES333 Sunburst, beautiful guitar, semi-hollow body, and you can see it on the cover of Rhythm, Chord, and Melody.
It was built in Kalamazoo too,
It
right?
was built in Kalamazoo, Michigan.
That's the original Gibson studio factory.
That's right. That's right. Since since defunct, but yeah, it's still a beautiful instrument. It does need the electronics need some attention, and I imagine I'll get around to it once I'm done paying for all the other sins that I've committed over the past 10 years of my New York life. Just living at a pace, an inhumane pace that the pandemic like really highlighted, you know.
Yep.
Just like you've been living like a jackass. You cannot continue to live at such a pace. But yeah, it's a beautiful guitar. It sounds gorgeous. I love how it plays. But I even took it out on the first few Kindo tours, but kind of had growing sense that I didn't want to take anything on the road that I valued quite that much because things have a way of getting damaged, destroyed, or disappearing on the road. And so who is it that told me, don't take anything on the road that you care about?
Yeah, though that's everyone. Because that I remember that guitar. I looked it up once on eBay a while ago. It's close to it's like $9,000 or something at the time that I looked it up, or something like that. It's probably worth. You could probably sell it for close to 10 grand. But your dad bought it for like a few $100.
He got it for like $150. There was a kid who he came from a bit more wealth than my dad did, and his parents bought him that guitar because he was interested in it, and he just lost interest in it, and he's just like, I don't really want this anymore. Like, and my dad's like, that's a gorgeous guitar. I will, you know, he's like, I'll buy that from you, $150. Yeah.
I found that more than not, musicians who have like vintage guitars like that, it's a similar story of how they got it.
Yeah.
Oh, it was just in a garage that somebody had. They didn't know what they had, and they were selling it at a garage sale. They got it for $75.
Right.
Like, what?
Right.
Because if somebody valued it and knew what it was, they would never have sold it or sold it for what it's worth. You know.
Sure. And to be fair, like, it's such a niche thing. Like, guitar collecting is a niche thing unless you know enough about it. You know, there's work to do. It's like anything else that's especially like baseball cards or coins or anything like that. It's like, if you're not in that world, or comic books, you know, like if you're not in that world and you don't understand like the marketplace of how things are priced, what makes things valuable, and how to find the people who find that stuff valuable, and you're not willing to do all that work because you're just trying to get rid of a bunch of crap in your garage, you're probably just going to do a garage sale and someone's going to get a great deal.
Do you know what's very valuable? Is my new wallet.
Whoa, look at that. The Triforce. Good job, buddy. Oh, yeah. That's so cool. I need a new wallet. I have a bundle of cards that is just in my European carry-all.
What, a European?
It's a man purse.
What is that?
It's a man purse.
Oh.
It was a Seinfeld reference. It's not a purse. It's a European carry-all.
I forgot that reference.
I don't know a lot of Seinfeld references.
That's what I mean. We're always telling you the references.
Yeah. But that's just like one particular one that I had remembered, I think. My mom got me that bag from Italy. It's like a really nice, like handmade all Italian leather bag, but it's got this great, like regular rugged look. I love it. That's like super soft. And obviously like, I'm not like super thrilled at the idea of like having animal hide, specifically, but the fact that it yields such an amazing thing that I have such value and respect for it. Like, I think that's part of why I love the bag, is like great sacrifice was made to create such a beautiful piece.
I always wonder about like, because you said like it's animal hide and like it's kind of frowned upon, like stuff like that. But if
depending on who you talk to,
right,
I have my own mixed feelings about it. Like, it's not like I'm completely like guilt free when it comes to stuff like that,
Yeah, but like, like food and stuff like that, like, a few hundred years ago, or like you lived off the land and like you killed the deer or bison and you ate all of the animal and you took the hide and you made a man bag, a man purse or clothing or whatever, right? Like usually it was like to stay warm in the winter, like
Like,
That's
oh,
it.
you know,
That's it, actually. Yeah. Because it's like you made a man purse out of this animal.
right?
That's privilege.
Sure. Oh, sure. Yeah, no doubt. No doubt. Yeah. Yeah, it's one thing if you're like in the Canadian wilderness in January and there's a black bear and you're freezing and you figure out how to kill that bear so then you can sleep inside of it for a few days to keep you warm. You know? There's a difference.
Well,
Where
I
it's just,
guess I
oh,
was
this
even
bear would make a great purse. You
I
know?
was even like talking about like uh like a society like Native Americans, for instance. They had large groups, hundreds, whatever, and they lived off the land, off of animals. And I imagine, I mean, they had art, so their needs were met, like it was like, but it all came from the land, all came from animals.
Mm.
um I imagine that a man purse must have been made, you know.
I'm sure some kind of utility bag to carry
Yeah,
various blades and
yeah,
tools,
that's what it was.
you know, for skinning and butchering an animal, so that you could, you know, make all. I mean, there's the other thing is like a lot of these sort of tribes. Like you found an animal, you used every part of the animal possible. You used
Yeah,
its bones to make arrows and tools. You used its, every organ, all the meat. Used this the hide and
yeah.
fur for warmth and to make tents. You know,
Dude, you know what I did? Uh like about a month ago, for like a week straight, I was obsessed with watching how to kill animals, and not like at slaughterhouses,
like
but like,
like hunting, like in the wilderness.
no, not that. Like if you're on a farm, you have your
But how to
animals. You have
butcher an animal?
yeah. Well, I
Yeah,
watched. That's how I started.
how to slaughter an animal, basically, like for the
Yeah,
kill. Yeah,
it started for me with, because I've been cooking a lot of steak, and I've gotten really good at cooking steaks, ribeyes specifically.
Oh, yum yum.
And I'm like, what part of the animal is that from? And I look and I'm like, wait a minute, like the rib, if you, it's just a small part of this big thing. So I'm
Well,
like,
it's so
oh
expensive. Yeah.
yeah. I'm like, where? How do you even butcher? How does it come from a live animal to this that I have in my hand? So I looked up how to butcher a cow, and was fascinating, and for pretty humane, very humane actually. Like,
Probably in
uh,
a probably if like a person is doing it and it's not like a slaughterhouse that's just like all machines.
yes, that's what I mean. But like, still, at the end of the day, I'm not very connected to the fact that I'm eating meat that was a live animal that was killed, and that's
Right.
why I'm able to eat it.
Right.
So I looked up that. I looked up uh, uh, pigs. What else did I look up? I looked up lamb, and like I mean, this is graphic, but the crazy thing is the way that it's not humane. But the best way to do it and the fastest way is they stand over it. So like it's kind of looks like you're riding it, right?
Yeah.
It's kind of between your legs, and you have like a sharp knife, and like you come around and down, and it pierces him right here, and immediately just like blood spurts out, and then the lamb is not happy and screaming. And then you just watch it watch
Bleed
the
out.
life leave. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then it is pretty fast, but I mean, I've never heard an animal scream like that, you know what I mean?
Oh,
And what else did I watch? A bunny rabbit.
oh yeah. I
um
forget people eat rabbit.
yeah, the most humane way to do that, there's two ways. One way I'm way more comfortable with, but this way is they kind of like grab it by its hind legs, whatever, and just kind of like dangle it. And you kind of pet it and, calm it. And then you kind of stretch it out a little bit and just snap its neck, and then it's done. That's it.
Hmm.
Um,
I know that if I can tell just by you telling me, like describing these videos, that if I watched enough of these videos, I'd probably just become vegan. Just like, all right, like, let me rephrase that. I would feel really, really extra guilty for not being vegan after watching those those videos. Just knowing,
Yeah,
like, I'm so sensitive to that stuff, you know, that it like affects me. But also, I'm so like, meat is such a part of my like general mode of being. There'd be such cognitive dissonance. It just, I mean, there already is, really, honestly. The only way I live with myself is by ignoring
yeah.
stuff
Well,
like
I think that like for me, it was like it didn't make me want to go vegan. Like what it made me feel was guilty for being so naive.
Mm,
Um, because I'm putting myself in the position of not like now, okay, now I know how the animal's killed. I'm gonna
yeah,
go get my meat, and
yeah,
well, good thing I know how it's probably been killed. It's more like if I had to survive, like we lived in a culture where we had to hunt our own animals and kill them, you know, like the thing with the bunny rabbits, like it's not hard at all to kill that thing. And if your survival depends on it, it just becomes your reality, and you're connected to it too. You're taking the life from it, you know. um we kind of have like I mean we've talked about this before, I think, but like we kind of have like the privilege to be vegan or vegetarian, and I don't think that it's wrong. I actually really appreciate people that are that sensitive, you know, because it's like, yeah, you're taking the life of an animal here. Like we don't really think about that. But if we lived in, you know, a hunter-gatherer society, we don't get to have that privilege. If we want to survive, like it's not like you kill a cow and then you eat it and then you kill another one. It's like a lot of times you kill a bison for that year, and that's what you ate that year. You know what I mean?
mm-hmm. Or fed the whole village, or which
Yeah,
was
right,
relatively small
right.
for a considerable amount of time. Um, or like in the yeah, like the age of woolly mammoths. You know, if you took a woolly mammoth down, hopefully it was cold and you could bury the meat so the meat would stay good, you know, for a long time, because that's a lot of animal.
Yeah,
It's yeah, I admittedly am not fully integrated in that department yet, and hearing you talk about it prompts puts in the queue of challenges to face to subject myself to more content like that. Um, Not necessarily with the intention to like convince myself to become vegetarian, but more so to sober my mind about it and force myself to get in deeper contact with the exchange that's happening, what life was taken so that I could continue to have the abundant life that I get to live.
yeah,
You know, at the expense of this creature that's life was taken uh, for me and for you. Uh,
yeah,
you know, and it's very it's difficult, man. Like I understand why it's a topic that people get emotional about. Like, I'm never puzzled as to why people feel passionate about this. You know, it's like I
no, never.
understand why, and I respect people who take their passion and then marry it with a conviction and then commit to a way of life. I do
Yes.
respect that,
Yep.
um, and that's, you know, Amit's vegan. He, you know, and he does that. And I don't know the ins and outs of like exactly what his convictions are, but there's such so
Well, he eats ice.
yeah, that's it. There's strong
That's all he eats. Yeah.
well, I say his convictions are strong enough that when we are traveling, like, yeah, sometimes it's like, cool, I had ice because that's all I can eat, you know, and it's that's all I can eat
He's
because there's
such
nothing.
a good sport.
Oh no, he truly is. He's a beautiful man, and it just, you know what, it really is just is amazing to observe. I really love it. Um, and yeah. So, anyways, I want to I would like to subject myself to that just so I can be in touch with it. And that's kind of my personality too. I think that's like how I
Yeah.
deal with myself. You know, it's like, let me
Now
get
the yeah
this.
the 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 more traumatic thing to subject yourself to is watching an animal kill an animal. That's no that
Like watching animals hunt each other.
yeah, that fucked me up. It did. It was
Mm.
like I saw a bear. I saw a video of a bear um, killing a deer,
Mm.
and it's not fast. Bear starts just eating it. Just starts
Really?
eating the yeah. That's how bears do it, dude. Like
Wow.
all bears in well, I think all bears. Most bears by nature, what they do is they find the thing and they just start eating it. There's no killing. There's no like, I'm gonna kill this thing first. It's like, and this deer is like, I've never heard a scream like this before, ever. It's from a deer, and you're just watching this. It was in the someone took a video because this happened in somebody's backyard.
Oh,
Um,
geez. Oh my gosh.
dude, it's
Were there
so
children
traumatic.
around? Were children watching this?
I don't know for sure. There was
Hopefully not.
a
That
there
sounds
was a
horrifying.
one dude that took the video, and I think he was with somebody else that I can remember, and he was like, "Call the ambulances!" Like he was like what are the ambulances gonna do to a bear eating a deer,
Right.
right?
Right.
So like that's what's the normal. That's what's normal in wildlife, right?
If anything, like the humane thing would be to like shoot the deer in the head to help put it out of its misery.
Right.
You know.
That's what I was gonna say. Humane thing. We're humans, and we have the ability and the knowledge and the yeah, just the knowledge and the know-how to kill an animal in a way that's not going to make it suffer. And there there's a responsibility with that, I think.
I would agree.
Um, yeah, the slaughter. I mean, we're not even talking about slaughterhouses and
Yeah. Like.
those abominations.
Yeah.
But that was more traumatic, and that was because when I
Mm.
saw that video, I was like, it was one of the worst things I've ever seen.
You're
So when
seeing
I
like such suffering of an animal at the hands of
yeah,
really otherwise a dumb, hungry animal that apparently a bear has, you know, that bear at least had not really much capacity for any empathy whatsoever of its prey, you know. It just
no,
all it saw was lunch, dead or alive, you know, and that was it. That's it. All you can eat buffet that happens to be a little noisy at first. But, you know,
yeah, yeah. Um, well, anyway, on a lighter note,
yeah, that's nice because this is getting
yeah.
dark.
Well, I was just actually like in the moment talking with you, so like I forgot we're like recording this. I actually don't have a lighter note. You know what? I do. We have some Patreon questions.
Oh, this will be good.
this,
Oh,
this is
Lord help
much
us.
lighter.
Yeah, yeah, good.
Um, so we have Austin Ford. We know
Nice.
we
We
know
know Austin.
Austin Ford, who's a $10 patron. And we always give our patrons priority to answer questions
That we do.
that we do. Um, okay, I have it pulled up. Austin Ford says, one thing I love about you guys is how your sound has evolved over the years. You seem to always be able to find new territory to explore while maintaining the soul of Kindo. What are some ways you found to deal with creative stagnation? I'm
Hmm.
currently in a place where I feel I've been writing the same song over and over, but I'm not sure how to break out of that.
Hmm.
That's a pretty good question, actually.
It's a great question. Thank you, Austin. Appreciate you, man. Um, well, I guess I could start. Um, I would say over the years, and particularly since Patreon started, we've been incentivized to become prolific each month and to put out new music every month. And that was a very scary proposition when we first started doing it. I can't say that I was like so confident that we'd be able to just indefinitely create and create at a level that we felt good about. But what ended up happening is we ended up slowly forging a creative process. And what it taught me over the past like 3 years is that when you're creating, it's better to have faith in the process by which you create than it is to have faith in your ability to come up with something awesome or new. The process serves as a form of structure through which creativity can flourish. So you don't need to have a distinct idea or an idea at all to do anything. All you need is a process that facilitates, like, okay, do I have a melody in my mind? No. Am I thinking about something? Maybe I have some lyrics. Okay. There's a couple of different ways you can go about initiating an idea. Or in our instance, as a band, like, I might not have an idea, but maybe Jeff has a bass line, or maybe
I think that's an important distinction, right?
you know,
It being somebody that is creating by themselves versus someone that has other people with them.
right. I will say, having incentive to get a creation done by a certain time and regularly has been paramount in us developing the process by which we can now consistently create pieces of work that are of a certain caliber and quality that we approve and can stand by. And if it wasn't for those structures of that rigid deadline incentive, I don't know we would have developed this process, and I don't know we would have pushed ourselves to create. Before Patreon, I don't know that you could have put a gun to my head and said, write a song, and I could have necessarily done it in any way that I would have felt good about. But now that we have a process, you could essentially prompt me to impulsively begin writing a song, and I could do it. I know where to start. And I know that I'm probably not going to love the first thing I do, and I know that's okay. That's part of the process, you know? So I think I would say then, to zoom out, if you don't have those structures in place to push you along, part of it is accepting a couple of things, that most of what you'll write and come up with won't be great. But that's okay. Write something, start with something, and there will invariably be something about a body of work that you create or about something you're working on that does stick out to you as valuable. Like, I don't like 75% of the words I just wrote, but this phrase is really sticking out to me. And that, just follow that flame. And sometimes you got to put it down and come back to it. But the discipline of coming back to it the next day, whether or not you feel inspired, is important. You do need to treat it like any other craft or trade. A woodworker doesn't wait to, who's being hired to make a piece. You just have to make the piece. Like, treat it like a job of sorts, not as a drudgery, but as a responsibility. You have to show up. That's the first thing. And make lots of bad stuff. Like, don't be afraid of creating things that are beneath what you wish you could create. You'll always be chasing that candle, but better to create regularly and have like most of it not be your favorite thing than to not create at all and wait for inspiration to strike you, because the chances are that you may never create if you're just waiting to feel like, eureka. If a lot of your songs are sounding the same, there's a couple of things you could do to try to like mix it up. Part of it could be just starting to expose yourself to some new genres and artists, or just whatever your intuition is to do, just deliberately do something completely different, even if you're not sure if you like it at all. Just really mess yourself up a little bit. Just, break the pattern a little bit. Seek pattern breaking behavior. And it can be scary, but if you're a little bit scared, then you're probably doing the right thing when it comes to making good art. I think you shouldn't know exactly what you're doing. You should kind of not be so sure how it's going to turn out, but trust that you'll make each decision you make will direct you towards where it eventually should go. And also view creation as a discovery process. It's not a process where you are like, all right, I need to create. Like, how do we create? Well, we discover what we like as it comes out of us, right? Like, if you get a lyrical idea, you write it down, and while you're writing it, you're just simultaneously discovering whether or not you like it. You're not deciding whether or not you like anything. You're discovering whether or not you like it. No one gets to decide what they like or don't like, and I think it's important to remind yourself of that. So you're a vessel through which this is coming out, and after it comes out, then you get to discover whether or not what about it you dig and what about it is not going to be making the final cut. So take a lot of pressure off yourself by reminding yourself that it's a discovery process. It is not it's not as much you doing something other than showing up to do the work of discovery. Let's frame it that way.
Right. Yeah, the thing that stuck out that Austin said was he feels like he keeps writing the same song over and over. And there's a couple things I want to say about that. But the first thing is, do you like that song you keep writing over?
Yeah.
And keep writing it, the other thing I was going to say too is that we have certain patterns and things that we like based on our abilities and things that we've learned. Every single musician, it blew my mind when I was studying Pino Palladino, bass player, one of the greats. I was doing a gig. We are covering, I think you were there actually. Remember when the John Bob Trio, we did the John Mayer Trio?
Oh, it's great.
Thing. It was so much fun, man. And it stretched me. But one thing I learned, maybe the most important thing I learned, was that Pino Palladino has so many go-tos that he does. He's got a lot of them. He's doing the same thing a lot. Like the same bass line, like same bass fills. And then in the next song, maybe in a different key, but he's got these things that he does. For him, it's like a flow state. It's not like he's trying to purposely, I'm going to do that line again. He's just kind of feeling it. But don't be afraid of writing the same song, especially if you like it. And if you're annoyed that you keep writing the same song, like what Joey said, write a completely different one. And your knowledge of what you're doing the same every time can be a barometer of what not to do, just as an experiment. There was David Bowie was talking about being in the writing room with one of his producers. And they were just writing songs, and the way I remember it, they had all chords on the board, like A through G, and major and minor chords, right? And they started playing, and the producer would take like the baton or whatever, or his finger, and just point at the next chord, and kind of arbitrarily. And most of it sounded bad. Most of it sounded really bad because they're not in the same key. But every now and then you get this weird thing that you never would have done.
Yep.
And it happened because of a right-brained experiment. Just to, you know what I mean?
Yep. It's great. Yeah. Great way to think. Yeah. Use your right brain to devise ways to trick your left brain out of its usual habits. And yeah, again, and you also have to, like, the creation process is not a time to be judging what you're doing. It's a time to just let it flow out, and you can judge how good it is after you get the ideas out. But finding that flow state, that's important, I think. And you learn, and it's like anything else, like repetition. The more you show up to create, and the more consistently you start making, it could just be lyrics, it could be just melodies, chord progressions, it could be beats, whatever it is, it could be paintings. Showing up consistently is the most important thing. And yeah, if you're tired of writing, if you feel like what you're writing, I'd have to hear what you're talking about. We could have a more in-depth and probably a more helpful conversation, Austin, if we could talk to you specifically about what your particular challenges are. But in general, as helpful as the general advice could be, yeah, what Jeff said is, I think, is really good insight. Find a practical way to just break your habits and just get yourself out of your box. Even if at first all the fruit is just kind of like not palatable to you, doesn't matter. It's more just be willing to just try something different and just roll with it, even if it's not immediately like bringing you great results. At least it's bringing you different ones, and that's how you start, you know?
Yeah. It's like it's definitely easier being in a band with that sort of stuff, because you have, with us 4, 5, 6, whatever other brains in the room, at least one of them is going to be inspired, and all of them in the writing room are going to be listening to what everyone's doing, and something that you just did that you never would have thought about, somebody liked, and they're like, what was that? You know what I mean? So you have that what is it, like an outside source, it's not just you.
That's a huge advantage of collaboration, and part of probably
Yeah.
why most of my creation is collaborative, because I've just come to really enjoy and trust in how quickly things can come together when you have multiple minds at the helm. I think it's great.
Yeah. So I guess if there's any advice, I would say collaborate.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, try collaborating. That's honestly, every time I collaborate with someone, I always learn a new way of thinking about creation, because that person creates differently than me. And so the more people you collaborate with, the more modes of creation you will kind of absorb. And you'll get a wider variety of results. So yeah.
Yeah. Really good question. We have
Great.
another one. We'll do a second one. We have, what's your name over here? Oh man. Marat Shigabutidnov.
Oh yeah, she spelled out the phonetic pronunciation in that comment, I think. Did she?
Really?
Yeah. Do you see? She's, because I mispronounced her name at the during the last Ask Me Anything.
Oh, okay. Well, I did my best. I hope it says.
Do you see that phonetic spelling? I don't know if I.
No, I just copied it from Patreon, for her name on Patreon.
Gotcha.
I really liked this question, and here I'll just read the question for you.
Yeah.
She said,
sorry, I found it.
Sorry.
It's Shiga Boot Dinoth.
Okay.
Shiga Boot Dinoth.
Shiga Butnino.
Shiga Boot Dinoth. Hopefully,
All right.
I'm doing that properly. I just felt bad for butchering it last time. I didn't mean to interrupt you. I just wanted to see if I could get it right. Murat.
Yeah.
Thank you. I'm sorry. I hope that's better. We'll get it. Sorry.
Well, she said, hey Kindo, Murat from Kazan is on the line. Hope you're all doing fine there. As you might remember from previous AMA session, I'm very interested in history, backstories, and other retro stuff, which is almost unavailable today, especially out of the US. Since that time, I've learned some interesting facts and listened to amazing music. McClurg family singers.
Whoa.
Adelaide, Electromat, and ensured of a big creative background you guys had up to the day when forming Kindo. it's still interesting to know what bands and projects were where other members involved, like what other members were involved in before Kindo. That she did a deep dive.
That is a deep dive.
McClure family singers.
I'm impressed. I am so impressed.
I'm very impressed.
Yeah. Wow.
I would actually, if you can send me what you found.
Yeah. How did you find all that stuff? That's awesome. You probably know
I would also love to see it. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So I thought that was really fun. But then her question is, a rhythm, chord, and melody album. How do you feel in almost 12 years after recording? Is it still actual for you in musical and lyrical sense?
That's a really good question. How does it feel? Well, man, I guess I could start. You know, we still play a lot of those songs live, and I really want to feel like I can connect with the lyric in some way. And the person who I was 12 years ago is a very different person than the person I am today. But in some ways, the cries of the soul and the cries of my heart that I poured out onto those pages that and that eventually became the lyrics of the songs, they're human cries, and they have come when I read them now, they've come to mean different things for me now. You know, they take on different meaning, and I suppose that's possible in the same way that those songs come to mean different things to whoever's listening to it. You know, so even if I had a certain intention of knowing what I meant when I was writing those words at the time, that doesn't mean that they always mean that. And I think that's what's so neat about art and poetry and lyrics is, you know, I can read and sing them now and be like, this really takes on a different meaning now to me than it did when I wrote it, but it still takes on a meaning. And so lyrically, that's been really interesting. And even revealing in some ways. And I'll say this, even as recently as like the 23 unreleased tracks we have right now, you know, that we mostly wrote before the pandemic hit, before my whole life and so many of our lives changed forever in a totally crazy way. I find myself like, I didn't listen to it for a while. I was really depressed for a long time. And as I'm like kind of starting to, it's funny, last night I started like going through all those songs really late. I just couldn't sleep. I was like, I'll listen to these demos and just reacclimate myself. You know, we're in production again. So like my mind's just starting to put pieces together again. And I'm listening to the words and I'm like, wow, like I wrote these words to myself to remind myself of what is important. And I didn't even know it all the time. You know what I mean? Like I would write from the soul and from the heart. And then I would just leave it be. I wouldn't even think about it. But now coming back to it, it's like almost like I was writing letters to my future self. It's like, hey, don't forget this stuff. Like this is important to you. And don't forget these truths that are easy to forget. That's why you put them in the song. These aren't so obvious in the world that we live in, at the pace we live in the society we live in, necessarily to you. You made note of them in these songs for a reason. They're somehow important to you. That's why you put it in a song for whatever reasons are. And I'm now seeing, like, listening back to those words, to a lot of the words I wrote, even in this new stuff, like, you know, it's not that old, and feeling like, oh, wow, like it's revitalizing pieces of me that I forgot about that aren't even that old, that also are important to me. So yeah, I don't know. It's just like, it's so interesting. It's like, there's a piece of me in all of it. And what it means to me changes as time goes on and as I change as a person. And so, and I imagine that's the way it is, you know, when we toured on Rhythm, Chord, and Melody, over the winter, that was often an experience that I was having and that people were having, you know, like a lot of people found those songs 10 years ago. I can't imagine they mean the same things to them now that they did then, but maybe hopefully some of those songs mean new things and take on new life and new meaning. And I think that's what's awesome about art, is art can do that. You know, I feel like my favorite art has that timeless quality that, you know, however it ages well. We'll say that. Good. I feel like my favorite art ages well. Maybe that's a good way to put it. Yeah. Which,
Yeah.
side note, did we officially announce the postponement of the August tour?
I don't think we did.
We should do that.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay. Well, if you're watching this podcast, that tour's been officially postponed.
Yes.
We will. Maybe that's on tomorrow's docket. Okay.
Yeah. You know what? I'll actually, I'm gonna write that down.
Yeah.
Because I'm in charge of the writing down and taking care of things. Okay.
I just thought of that. I was like, oh boy.
Postpone rhythm, chord, and melody tour. I think really there's so many things that I could say about that. But the thing that jumped to mind first about how do I feel about it 12 years later is I worked at Guitar Center like 7 years ago in Brooklyn, and James Iha from the Smashing Pumpkins came in. Did I tell you about this?
Yeah.
Man, that was like a what?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah,
James
yeah.
Iha? What? Smashing Pumpkins is one of my favorite bands. Not only that, Smashing Pumpkins is one of the reasons I'm playing music. It's not even, it's just in my bones. And here's James Iha, the guitar player. And he was buying some stuff. I cashed him out with some strings, and I didn't I didn't say anything to him. I just was like, you know, just cashed him out, exchanged a couple words. That was more meaningful for me. Also, like, what am I going to say to a dude who, even at that time, has been out of that band for 15 years? You know, like, but my manager, Joe, who's kind of like our dad, he's like, you know, 50, really great player, guitar player. He went up to him and he asked James, he was like, oh my God, James, you're like, love you, man. You're such a great player. You know, I've always wanted to ask, I've always wanted to know, in the music video of Zero, you're playing this like green guitar. What guitar was that? Because, you know, Guitar Center, he's a guitar nerd and like knows all the guitars. And James' response was like, oh man, I'm sorry, I don't even remember. You know, like, so there's like this music video for Zero, which is what, 96 probably, something like that. Big music video on MTV when music videos were like the
Prime.
thing.
Yeah, it was
Prime. Smashing Pumpkins, one of the biggest bands, so influential. So many people saw that video. He was in that video, but to him, it was something he did so long ago that he can't, like, he was like, I'm sorry, I don't remember I don't even know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
But for Joe, who was a fan, who likes that stuff, like, he's like, what is that green guitar? And like, what's this lick here? Excuse me. And that's kind of how I feel about older stuff. It's kind of actually how I feel about almost all this stuff, but especially older stuff, where it's like, we were so in the moment, we did that in the moment, and we did the best that we could, and then we're on to the next. And it's almost like that record didn't exist. Not because of anything else, but because my mind is now on to the next thing. But the thing with art and the thing with music is that it can imprint on people. So how I feel about it is, I don't know. I barely remember it, to be honest, you know. The things I do remember about it, there are some, I'm proud of it. I'm proud of little Jeff as a bass player. But I'm also like, I don't remember. I've been playing that bass line for so long. I don't even remember recording or writing that bass line. You know what I mean? It's something else.
Yeah. Yeah. I understand. I have flashbacks of like how I felt and some of the things I was going through when I was writing some of those lyrics, but or at least the feelings. But again, like yeah, like we were saying, like that person is dead now. And so all I have is how it makes me feel now when I see it, you know. The same way like as if someone else was reading it for the first time, you know. Uh
Yeah.
it's like, oh, it's like someone else wrote it. Really?
Yeah.
Someone else made that record
Huh.
now. Like I listened to it, it's like, oh wow, like and it's not like I don't have recollection of making it, but my experience of hearing it back is the experience of hearing someone else's band or someone else's
Yeah.
record, you know.
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it. Me too. Because I definitely have memories. I don't want to like, um, I would definitely remember a bunch of it, but it feels like different. But yeah, that's how I feel about it. 12
Hmm.
years later.
Good question.
Yeah, man. Um,
Thank you, Marat.
Thank you, Marat. Um, well, Joey, I think that's a good podcast.
We did it.
We did it.
Lovely. Oh, this is fun. Thanks for heading this up. I was, you know, and foregoing all of my technical hangups, I think this will serve well, and maybe you patrons can let us know. We're just kind of going a little more, you know, it's still quarantine age, and we're going a little more lo-fi. But if this is doing the trick, it's doing the trick, and I'd rather do it than not do it. So, um, it's a really good thing. I'm pumped about how technology enables this.
Yeah.
This is a good edge of the sword.
Yeah, it's really good.
Yeah,
Definitely open to constructive criticism. We want to get better at this, but we're perfectionists and way to a fault, meaning that we want it so perfect that we don't do it.
might be
So
fun. Like eventually, like we start implementing some more like branding stuff, or have some like silly intro, just as a fun like artistic expression thing.
yeah, yeah.
Because
I mean, I think that how you find that is just by doing it. You know,
yeah, I think you're
like
right.
anything.
Incremental, yeah, incremental progress.
Yeah,
Have a bad habit of like wanting it to be like the fully realized vision right away, and that you know it's like that's not the way to do anything.
it's impossible.
Yeah, yeah. So
um,
that's good.
we love you guys very
Yeah,
much.
sure do. Thank you for supporting us, patrons. Shout out to our patrons who make this possible. Without you, we're unemployed entirely. Eating cold beans out of a can opened up with a rusty nail. And that's just the way it goes. Thank you.
And on that note, bye.
Bye.